Welcome to the Perpetual Growth Podcast with Zac Palmer, the show where we explore the strategies, insights, and stories that empower you to grow your business, strengthen your relationships, and elevate your health. Because growth isn't just about what you achieve, it's about who you become along the way. Now today, I am thrilled to welcome Olivia Lee. Olivia is the founder of Livvium, a Web3 transformation and Metaverse consultancy. With over 15 years of experience spanning from devising intricate DAO frameworks to creating immersive user experiences to white papers nurturing brand identities, Olivia has immersed herself in the digital frontier, culminating in a passion for making the Metaverse accessible, inclusive, and innovative. Let's dive in and take another step on your journey to perpetual growth.
Welcome to the Perpetual Growth Podcast with Zac Palmer, the show where we explore the strategies, insights, and stories that empower you to grow your business, strengthen your relationships, and elevate your health. Because growth isn't just about what you achieve, it's about who you become along the way. Now, today, I am thrilled to welcome Olivia Lee. Olivia is the founder of Livvium, a Web3 transformation and Metaverse consultancy. With over 15 years of experience spanning from devising intricate DAO frameworks to creating immersive user experiences, to white papers nurturing brand identities, Olivia has immersed herself in the digital frontier, culminating in a passion for making the metaverse accessible, inclusive, and innovative. Let's dive in and take another step on your journey to perpetual growth. So, Olivia, welcome. Super excited to have you here today.
Hey, Zac. It's great to be here. Thank you for having me on your show. And I have to say, I love the title of your show. The show, like Perpetual Growth, is how we should all, it should be a mantra we should all live by, ethos. Love it.
Thank you. It's something that has resonated with me on multiple levels. I've never told anybody this in public, but my next boat, I plan to name the boat Perpetual Motion. Obviously we'll play on words, but
yeah.
So for some reason that just sparked that. So thank you.
It. You shouldn't
Olivia,
say it because now someone's going to steal it.
I know. I was thinking the same thing. I'm like, oh, dang it, but that's all right. You'll have heard it here first. So Olivia, I would love if you would just start off by telling the listeners a little bit about your professional background, your entrepreneurial journey, some of the both the highlights and maybe even the challenges that have brought you to where you are today. What has that looked like for you?
Wow. Yeah, that question is going to be quite a lot to go through. So I'll keep it
I got time.
To the point. Okay. Yeah. Well, I mean, I have to say there's probably just the equivalent of like balance of challenges and opportunities, and everything along the way has led me to where I am today, which is still unknown, but in a very good way, I'd like to say. And we'll get into that a little bit later. So a little bit about myself and my background. So I am Canadian born. After I graduated from university, I had a marketing degree, and then I moved to Hong Kong. So I've been in Hong Kong for about 20 years, and I have worked across many different industries, holding a lot of different senior roles. So let's just go back a little bit. One of my first professional roles was a brand manager of a luxury Swiss watch. So I was one of the youngest brand managers in Hong Kong, where I opened shops in Macau and China, took a well-known luxury brands and opened lots of point of sales for them. So that was a really wonderful job. Beautiful time because there was a lot of money to be spent buying wonderful Swiss watches. So I was doing that for a little bit. And then quickly, that was like the marketing, branding, opening stores, coming up with kind of like the designs and choosing the accessories and stuff and pitching it to our VIP clients, retailer relationships. So that's sort of how I kind of got my taste in the luxury and fashion. All along, I've loved fashion. And then after I left that role and I started it was the beginning of blogging. So I think it was close to 2008. And I've always loved everything related to technology and fashion, now that I think about it, And I wanted to do something. It was the start of blogging. I think like Blogspot or something came out, and I wanted to create something. So I created a platform for parents and new moms to discover the city. So that was one of the first thing I did to kind of get into the blogging world. That business kind of took off, but at the same time, it wasn't very accessible. So I kind of left that also because I ended up working for a charity fundraising company where I was the director of operations. So I've worked across many different fields, from luxury Swiss watches, turned around, discovered a new technology or platform that you can, now we say creators economy. Anyone can kind of like plug and play, learn how to build something. And then did that for a while. Couldn't go very far. So went back into the corporate world, did that for a bit. And then same pattern happens. I go back to starting my other business, which is a digital fashion magazine. So this is where things start to shape in terms of what I like, and is shape as in what technology has started to come into play, where many of us start to discover new tools to further our passion. So that one was a digital fashion magazine. It was the beginning of like secondhand clothing. We start talking about circular economy, sustainability, fashion waste. So it was a digital fashion magazine and also an e-commerce store. So I ran that business for about 4 or 5 years. It was also very challenging because that was the start of influencers. So a lot of companies and brands were interested in getting influencers instead of doing their more traditional editorial. So did that for a little bit, learned a lot about SEO, because SEO, affiliate marketing, influencer marketing, all of that kind of stuff, because my traditional marketing degree has been a little bit obsolete. So all along, I'm learning new tools to kind of continue what I'm trying to discover in the world and what my passion is. So did that for a little bit as well. After that company, we sold it. My ex-founder, she's taking care of that business. Then after that was quite a bit. Let me think. After that, I worked for a wholesale cake company, a very fast-moving consumer good company during COVID. And that was the time when it was like, the Hong Kong was kind of under lockdown. I was very pleased to have a job like this because I was doing my own business for about 4 or 5 years. And then that role was absolutely challenging. It was COVID time. It was super fun. Can you imagine like tasting chocolate, just thinking about what kind of cake design, how you're going to wrap a campaign about it. The cake is like incredible. Like it's made me into a major cake snob because of that now, but I did that. So like I help with the R&D for their ice cream, developing their ice cream brand, the style, the packaging, all of that kind of stuff. After that ended, then I jumped to a private investment company. So this is where you're trying to get to about the Web3 bit. This is where I started discovering what Web3 is, blockchain. Naturally, the company that I worked for, the firm at the time, was very much involved in alternative assets. All of his portfolio were all of the fun stuff that I've never really heard before, like, space exploration, quantum computing, carbon neutrality, all that kind of stuff. And a big, big part of his portfolio was Web3, AI, a lot of AI stuff. Didn't touch that at the time. And most importantly was the first week during my job, an investment deck came through my desk, and it was the word metaverse. This was 2022, I think. Never heard of this word. What is this word metaverse? Flipped through the investment deck, and it was beautiful, like holographic. It had beautiful colors. It had it name drop luxury brands that any fashionista would love. It had like gaming avatars, and my eyes were like, what is this? So I went through it so fast. In the end, my boss at the time did not invest in it, but I remember thinking like, this is the next thing. I can't miss this. Like I knew wholeheartedly, this is where everything's going to be. It is going to be the next internet, that aha moment that I went through as a teenager in the 90s, So I knew this was it. Kept it aside, focused during the time at the investment, focusing on running projects. So there was a lot of ideation for Web3 projects. A lot of companies were coming and asking about what are DAOs, what are STOs? I want to make a meme coin and altcoin. How do I make this go 1,000 times, 10,000 times overnight? It was a crazy time. And, so these are all the things that led me. And I have to say, because of the cake job before, it shaped my mind. Everything was moving so fast, nonstop. Nothing ended that it prepared me for that last role, which is the Web3 ideation and project role, because that was crazy crypto bull time and nobody slept, right? And I'm glad. So every step along my entire professional journey led me and shaped me to who I am and what I believe in and what I look forward to today. And, so this is a little bit about my professional journey.
Wow. Thank you for sharing all that. Yeah. What I find, there's several points that I find really, really fascinating and intriguing about you. One that resonates, I guess, with me personally, because my professional journey shared certain parallels where, I took over a business when I was 19 years old. It was in the health and wellness industry. I took my education to rather extreme lengths. And what it ultimately led me to was the opportunity to work side by side with some of my superheroes, where I was got the opportunity to speak and work as a high level senior executive in the organization. And the closest parallel, however, was that constant pull, that perpetual desire to move back to working independently with and for myself, which we know business is never done alone. I mean, we can't accomplish anything by ourselves, but still being the one driving the ship was something that has always been a need for me. And it's never been from an egocentric standpoint. I haven't heard that in your voice and tonality whatsoever. I think at least for me, has been more about controlling my destiny and outcome. What I find really interesting with you, and one of the other parallels we shared, again, completely different industries, but what is so fascinating is what I fell in love with in the beginning was the artistry of health, wellness, and fitness in the body. I mean, I studied under virtually every major reputable certifying body, completed doctorate level medical terminology so I could communicate on a clinical level with other healthcare practitioners, certified level 1, level 2 kinesiotaping technician, work with physical therapists by invitation, the list goes on and on. But what I ended up falling in love with over time was the art and science of business and communication and persuasion. And what I think is so fascinating is you don't meet, at least I haven't met very many people, and I never really thought about this until this moment, this conversation, that really effectively leverage both the left and right brain, the artistry, and then you talk about the balance of moving into an operational role, the sales and influence, the structure and management of being able to implement point of sale systems and how to integrate both these sides of a business. And I don't think, most people tend to operate, predominantly from one of those hemispheres. You don't see as much of the convergence. How do you feel like that ability, that unique ability of yours, has contributed to where you are today? And what opportunities has it provided you, or is it creating for you right now as you step into this next stage of life and focus?
Yeah, that is a good question. I just have to say first that I've never really thought that I was using my left and right brain. I think I've always been a very curious and well-rounded person. Like, I do know what I like, and I do think that in this lifetime we have the ability to learn as much as we can. No one stops you from, gaining knowledge, gaining the right experience, gaining network, right? So I've always leverage tools that are available and out. Like, I've always signed up to be beta test. Like, I love it. Like, I love, like, back in the day when all the apps coming out and you have friends building apps, I would be more than happy to be a beta tester and write little notes and like, oh, this UX is a little bit off. This kind of like, like, I always loved it. And I realized that all of these little experiences I've had, just sharing my ideas with people or just learning from them, kind of shaped more other opportunity that comes along the way. So I've never really thought about left brain, right brain. I just kind of liked what I liked and I just pursued it. Naturally, there's always going to be some hurdles and things I can't do. Like I can never do brain surgery. You know what I mean? Like there are certain things, I mean, I might be able to do in a game situation, who knows, right? But there are certain things I wouldn't be able to do. One of them in the artistry kind of thing that I wouldn't be able to do is I have the creativity, but is usually backed by business strategies. Because, I went to business school, I did marketing. I've never let my marketing fall behind. I am completely up to date, But like the people who have the real skills, like, I don't know, like graphic designers, maybe architect, like artists, those people with the real tools, I feel like I could never do that because that's like a whole set of skills you really take time to do. This is where Web3 and Metaverse and all that stuff became the biggest eye opener for me from a personal level, as in it really fulfills me in terms of like I found something that I feel like I can dedicate my entire rest of my life to because it's just unending. Things are unfolding every day. The fact that if I want to, I can become a game builder. If I want to go onto Roblox and use one of their tools to create my own world, I can now, So there are certain elements, and that's the key what's making this whole industry so exciting. Because the reason why I was able to do a digital fashion magazine, that was the start of some magazine editor tools that came out, like it would be style, layout. It was also the start of like some e-commerce stores, so like things like Shopify and stuff that started to come out. I no longer have a barrier. I no longer need to wait for someone to do it for me. I can just take the time and learn. Naturally, we have things like YouTube. You can hire people to train you, all that kind of stuff. That makes things smoother. But that's what's exciting me from working corporate. And my mind's 100% there. But part of me is nagging about, well, this tool is too good to not try out, and certain things that makes me jump back and start thinking about my own business, like what can I do? And you said it in the most perfect way, sort of in control of your own destiny, so anyways, you were asking about how do I balance, right? Did I answer your question?
I think that was great. It was
okay.
it was perfect. I mean, what's so interesting, again, this may feel tangential, and I think you'll get the why in just a moment. I said the exact same words that you did for the longest time. I'm like, I'm not an artist. I'm more of a clinician. I'm like, because I have a never-ending thirst for knowledge. It's like I love. I believe it was Mark Twain that said it. I never let my schooling get in the way of my education. And in traditional school, I never did that well. But ever since, I can't digest enough information, reading books, sending myself to seminars. I mean, the list goes on and on, completing courses and just immersing myself in an industry and surrounding myself with the people that are best at what they do. But what I hadn't really given myself enough credit for as it pertains to the artistry is if I step back and I look at my hobbies, they're many times activity based. Like, I love to ski and snowboard and boat and wakeboard and go out in the desert and hop on a four-wheeler or a dirt bike or, a lot of activity-based adventures, hike, ski, whatever. But when I'm home, where some of the creativity comes out is I'm also a carpenter.
Ah,
And I never thought about carpentry as a form of artistry
it is.
until some people started to give it that label. They're like, wow, this is incredibly artistic. How did you think of this? I'm like, why? Now that you say it, I started with this really basic design element. And then as I frequently do, it just kind of took on a mind of its own. And I let creative, I never used those words in the moment, but I let that creative expression come through me. And I just decided, what if I did this? What if I did this? And all of a sudden, this basic table turns into this elaborate work of art. Or I created this I don't know how to explain it exactly, but this neat three-dimensional wall art for my brother that represented when he graduated Washington State University. Or I just made my kids over Christmas. I started playing with epoxy and doing these unique epoxy inlays to create these night lights and stuff for them. And I had never considered myself an artist until somebody else gave me that label. And I think there's a lot more artistry that is buried within some of the things that you have created and are creating than you may be giving yourself credit for. And the question that it leads me to is, from a hobbyist standpoint, or just be it free time, what are some of the things that you love to do?
Okay. I have a lots of range of hobbies, I think. I'm someone who can't really sit still and I get bored easily. So
I was going to ask you, are you
naturally,
ADD just a little bit?
you know what? Somebody actually said that. I was really offended at first, but then I was like, you know what? I shouldn't be offended. Like, this is just how I am. But
Hmm.
maybe,
Hmm.
but naturally. Okay, so I'll join the club too. But I think generally I definitely do like to read. Now it comes through all kinds of medium, like books. Obviously, a lot of information on one of my main social platform where I connect with lots of like-minded peers. So LinkedIn is something that I use excessively. Lots of great articles, great information, PDFs, all that documents that shares. I read a lot of that. So that's one hobby, but it's not a very exciting hobby. Naturally, I love exercising, so I think, given that at a certain age, you really do have to put your health first, your well-being first, so I do spend a lot of time. I live in Hong Kong. It's a wonderful place to be certain time of the year. So, from now to maybe March, the weather is beautiful. So I do a lot of hiking. I really do believe walks by yourself, listening to nature, or even listening to podcasts, like just some quiet moments to yourself is something that I really treasure. So I love walking. Usually hiking is what I usually do. Exercise wise, I have a personal trainer, so I go 3 times a week. I also do some yoga. So those are some of the exercise. Now comes to not so cool hobbies, but I'm going to make it cool, is that I do love cross stitching. So the handicrafts, do you know what that is?
Yeah, yeah,
Embroidery. Yeah.
yeah.
So I do that, so I do like to sit. I love jigsaw puzzles. Like I'm a major jigsaw puzzle geek, but the traditional ones. So these are like slow living kind of hobbies that clears my mind. And the best thing is I could be in the middle of the living room with my kids around, husband around, etc., plug into our headset, listen to music, have a cup of coffee, tea, wine, etc., be in my own world. So I love those type of hobbies as well. Yeah.
That's
And
interesting. We
paper
have,
cutting. Those tiny
oh,
paper cutting, like
yeah.
so I have like strange, like kind of, yeah, strange hobbies, like slow living hobbies, I like to call it. Like, puzzles and crafting and embroidery is what I like.
That's so fascinating. We have a lot more parallels than I realized than came from our earlier conversation. I there's two things I wanted to extract out of this. One, you mentioned as we age, fitness becomes more important than ever, and I'd love to hear how that plays a part in your everyday life, but also your professional growth and development. I know for me, I was blessed with a relatively severe injury when I was 16. Multiple herniated discs in my back. It was a football injury. Went undiagnosed for 4 years. I ended up having back surgery when I was 20. And I literally had days, weeks, months at a time. I couldn't bathe myself, dress myself, anything. All the while, I was still playing football, powerlifting, doing everything I shouldn't do because the doctors were like, "Oh, you're just having muscle spasms." But nonetheless, I think it was one of the catalysts that drove me to take my education to such extreme lengths in the fitness and wellness industry. And it also, taught me about the power and resilience of the human body, and helped me establish a lot of the habits that most people wait until the latter part of their life to establish very early on. So fitness has always been a fundamental part of my life. And I think what I wanted to ask as well is, you talk about, what did you refer to them as your slow moving hobbies?
Slow living,
Slow living. I love
like
that. Slow. That's
slow
great.
living
So yeah, yeah.
hobbies. Like
Hmm.
before there's phones, you're just sitting on your porch with your
Yeah.
tea and your
Yeah.
newspaper, like slow
Hmm.
living.
Hmm. Did you?
It's a
So what I
luxury
find
now.
interesting, it is. So what I find interesting about this is one thing that I've said for quite a while with carpentry in particular, that I didn't realize was a value for me, or it took a long time to articulate anyway, was because I am now so ADD. And I want to give you this little bit of information. This was one of the things that made me feel really great about the term or label. A lot of people have referred to those with ADD or ADHD. It's like having a Ferrari engine, but with bicycle brakes. But when we can learn to upgrade those brakes, now you're light years ahead of everybody else. And it sounds like you've done a
Mm,
very effective job of
mm,
that. So it's leveraging the
that
strengths that
is
come with it.
cool.
So I love that. I love that comparison. But one of the things I found so helpful with me with carpentry is the mindfulness, the presence, almost the meditative aspects of it. Like, yes, there's the creative expression, but because in carpentry, if you're off, if your cuts are off by a 16th of an inch, doesn't sound like much in the moment, but those cuts compound, that table that should be perfectly
That's not
flat
gonna be.
is
Yeah.
not going to be anymore. So the amount of precision that it requires, I have to be so focused and present in that moment that I realize there's a very strong meditative component where I'm blocking out all of the other noise. I'm not thinking about the argument I got in earlier, maybe one of the challenges that I'm dealing with in work or business or, anything along those lines. I'm just there doing the thing. Have you
Oh my
found
gosh.
that to be a benefit with it?
Yeah. Okay. You just brought up something that I didn't share about my professional journey. Like I have lots of like artistic s- I guess interests I have, like I
Hmm.
guess jobs too. One
Hmm.
of them is I'm a professional parts model, a hand model. So when you talked about meditative state for
Hmm.
carpentry, oh gosh, sometimes I love getting these jobs for fashion brands. Like mostly they're jewelry brands or magazine shoots. I love it. You know why? No one expects to talk to me because you're just a model. I'm not a famous supermodel. I'm only here for my hands, like that's what I'm here. So this is where it gets to be super cool when I totally get what you mean about the meditative state. And even a centimeter off, the director's going to be like, can you shift back? So there was a time when I did a photo shoot, and that's when I realized, wow, I can do this in a meditative state of mind. Because when you do photo shoots for certain things, they'll be like, Olivia, can you turn your hand like this? Can you turn your hand like this? And I'm already at the next level. Like I'm in a theta stage, like it's buzzing in my head, and I'm in a pure relaxation mode, but I feel really focused. It is a new,
Hmm.
like it's really interesting. That usually only comes from that type of jobs I have, like for the
Hmm.
the meditate, like hand modeling. But
Hmm.
when you said that, reminded me of that
Yeah.
meditative. It doesn't come off because puzzles, you don't really get meditative. You just get very focused. Like it's like nice soft focus.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love puzzles too. I think I know I look at business in that same light many times. It's like, what is the missing piece for this stage in the game that's going to allow us to complete the present picture to take us to our next level and, next subsequent puzzles. So I love puzzles for the metaphor and for the challenge and experience. It's always fun to try and
Absolutely.
put
And
something
it's
good
always
together.
satisfying when you get the last piece in,
Yeah, it is.
you
As
know?
long as the kids didn't lose any of them, that's one of the
Oh
keys.
my God, I was just gonna say that. Or
That's
the
the worst.
family starts to come and contribute when you're like 95% done. They all start
Yeah.
showing up and you're like,
Yeah.
no, no, no.
Yeah, my dad has a really strong knack for that. Now, one thing I want to come back to because
Mm,
it's such a fascinating subject, and there seemed like there was a point in time where you were hearing a lot about it, and then all of a sudden, at least for me, I don't know, it's fallen off the radar to a little bit. I want to come back to what you are currently working on and talk to us a little bit more about your experience with the metaverse. What are some of the potential different utilizations? Where could it be? Where do you see it being integrated into business, into everyday life, our social lives? What are
oh
some
wow.
of the benefits that you're seeing, and maybe perceived potential pitfalls, the things that we need to be mindful and aware of? And what does it look like experientially to you? I've never had the opportunity to play in there. So I would love if you could just, you know, illustrate, from a high level, what it looks like to most people and what they might expect their first time logging in. And then if you could just touch on some of the various applications, which I'm sure are infinite, but at least maybe some of your biggest focal points right now.
Yeah, I'll try to do it the best I can because this can get very deep dive into different areas. So I think,
Mhm.
as you and I talked about before we started the show, the term metaverse, some people hear and they're like, oh my gosh, like this is so intimidating. I don't want to know more. Some people are like, what is it? Some people believe in it, others don't. So there's a whole different range. But this is exactly why I decided to stay with it. Like I just really truly believe in it. I'm sure at some point we may not use the term metaverse, just like we don't always use the term internet or, the www, like that kind of thing. So the terms will really change. But the best way to describe what I think of the metaverse is effectively it's really a concurrent space for entertainment, for education, for people to be in a virtual environment at the same time, whereby it could be joining concerts together across the world, whereby it could be learning something from like education as in joining your classes. It could be things like shopping, In terms of how it can look like, I myself are not using Oculus or the MetaQuest or anything. This is why I think we are still in the very early stages, because I think it's really hard for people to go from the thing that we cannot remove from our hands, which is our mobile phone, to something such as the Oculus and such. So we're still not really there yet, although there are more households with this nowadays. But how the environment would look like would be really in an immersive environment. The best way I see it is I always like to talk about it in the context of e-commerce and shopping, because I find that this is the space that I enjoy the most. I spend the most time in as a consumer even, and as a marketer. And as like a brand manager. So how I like to explain it that I usually think people understand is the idea of the e-commerce shopping experience hasn't really changed in about 20 years. It's about 30 years since the internet has been really kind of out there mainstream. But a lot of things around us has changed, So the e-commerce experience has still very much been status quo. So you and I, even right now, even though it's very much second nature for us to be online, FaceTime, getting to know each other for this show is still very much very flat, right? Why is it that we're not in a more virtual space? So e-commerce, when you hop onto a shopping store that you like an online store, you're constantly scrolling down. So why is the experience flat? Why am I still scrolling on a mouse, scrolling down, down, down? Whereas I can be shopping with one of my friends or people I don't know in an immersive environment where we can become our own kind of avatar, whichever way we want to represent ourselves. So maybe I want to be a butterfly, or I want to be a giant, or I want to be a physical twin of myself, and meeting you, Zac, in this virtual environment where you can be doing your you could be doing your shopping, maybe at the hardware store, and I can still also be in that hardware store, but we can see each other. We could interact. We may not interact. The hardware store may create challenges such that we have interaction. That's part of the gaming kind of the gaming side of things. So this is how I see how metaverse can be used, because right now shopping is very much flat in the e-commerce sense. So instead of having a website designer designing what they want you to see, as in their hero banner, what is their campaign right now, why not in a 3D environment where you walk into the environment and you yourself can explore what's around you? I hope that gives you a...
Oh, it does. I mean, my mind is reeling with the different number of potentialities. That's absolutely fascinating, because what I'm somewhat curious about is, I don't want to ask a ridiculous question, but then I don't mind if I sound stupid. So let's just go there anyway. I think about being able to come in and perform a virtual shopping experience, but you also talked about the opportunity to create a virtual avatar. Now, oftentimes when I think about an avatar, I'm going to think about like the like memojis and stuff that we can create on our phone, like that type of animated body that is walking through a virtual world. However, if I were shopping, like say if I'm shopping for clothes, is there then a potential opportunity for that to transition from more of an animated version of self to an AR, an augmented reality version of self, where it's your literal use? So you could be virtually trying on a wardrobe. I mean, I'm guessing you could actually probably even do both. You could buy virtual wardrobes for your animated self as well as
Absolutely.
shop for your physical self. But is there a convergence point between the two too?
I think the reason why the metaverse hasn't fully taken off is because one of the original, like the tenets of it is the interoperability about it. So the thing is, what you just mentioned would be the ideal situation. The fact that one avatar, as in myself, can jump from one space to another space and carry all of those assets, my digital fashion across these different worlds, right? But the reality is we're not yet there. So this is where everyone starts to find that, well, this metaverse is not going to happen. I feel like it's going to happen. We're just building all of the little bridges so we get closer and closer to that reality. So to answer your question, in the environment of shopping, naturally it makes the most sense if you have a hyper real scan or avatar of your body, your exact shape, walking through this ideal 3D immersive mall. But it shouldn't stop you, because one of the things about metaverse is it's a true area of self-expressions. It's supposed to be all inclusive. So if I want to show up as like a 10 feet tall dinosaur, I should be able to. It's just that my shopping experience may not be the same. However, if you think about the interface about that shopping experience, maybe what you see, if you and I are in real time walking through the hardware store, let's say, you might see the dinosaur. I might also see the dinosaur as well, because that's how I want to present myself. But then one of the key things is perhaps my sizing is already input into the account and such. So whatever I choose, well, I mean, I'm ideating. The clothing could fit the dinosaur just for, novelty's sake, but the innate science would be it fits my size, because that store already has my full AI sizing details, and it will still send me and present to me the exact size that I'm looking for.
Yeah. And what's really cool about that too is I have to imagine, at least ultimately in the future, we all know that, like, we have our size, but then different brands will fit differently. And then sometimes there's just different cuts within the brands. And particularly as men, I'm like, I don't know the difference between skinny and straight.
It's not
and
just
boot.
you.
I mean, I kind of do, but my point. It's like, it'll be able to probably more accurately make recommendations based on the unique specifications of the fits across those lines. And one of the other things I was considering is I have to imagine that one of the largest present limitations, outside of coding and the artificial intelligence interface, is the limitations of artificial intelligence presently, and not necessarily from the learning aspect, but more from the energy consumption. And I don't know if most people are aware of that challenge, but AI data centers are one of the largest consumers of global energy. And it's one of the reasons, I mean, outside what should be probably the primary driving reason being mitigating climate change and our impact. But outside of that, we've got to figure out a way to be able to power these massive computer systems and data centers. And until we have that much power, then we won't be able to meet the computational needs that the software will need to be able to create even more expansive and dynamic
environments. And to your point, Zac, this is exactly why we have not reached that level of instant real time, because naturally all of the creation of all of the assets will really require a lot of power, so that's why some of these things are slow, because of exactly what you brought up.
Awesome. Well, this has been absolutely fascinating. As we wrap up today's episode, this has been a really incredible conversation. I would love, Olivia, if you had, I mean, you have such a dynamic background. If you had one tip, if there's been one, pivotal moment, of course, there's been many, but as it sits at present, if you had one thing that you could leave with the audience that you believe has been one of the greatest contributors to your current level of success and fulfillment that you're experiencing today, what would you want to share with anyone?
Okay. The biggest lesson I've learned, and the one pivotal moment, is I choose myself. I bank on myself by putting myself out there, by reaching out, meeting new people such as yourself, Zac, to put myself out there. The old me may have been a little bit more concerned about, being too public, too self-boasting, like I've done this is my collection, like certain things I have changed, and I think it took me some time to get here. So I think the one lesson I've learned is personal branding. Basically, it's good to put yourself out there, whereby you can be writing about anything just to build your community, your network, and all of these things will lead you to new opportunities, things that you don't even imagine, like that you would imagine would come to you. So I think my biggest moment was that I'm choosing to believe in myself, basically.
That's beautiful. I love that. I mean, I actually heard 2 or 3 different lessons in there. One, it's be you. And I think a lot of people struggle with that concept more than they realize. I mean, the concept of an identity, and it can either become our greatest prison or opportunity for exploration. And I think you completely embody what it means to explore who you are, because it's not a process of who you are, it's who you're becoming, and it's an evolution. And the only way to really get to know what lights you up and the things that you are passionate about is be willing to explore, be willing to lean into the opportunities that you are presented with, and ride that wave. And sometimes it's going to lead to something that's absolutely great and big and beautiful. And other times you're going to learn it's something that you don't really want. But either way, you're winning, because you can check that off and say, that's something that I'm not going to focus on in the future, or I want to pour more energy into this thing. So it's the awareness of self, the willingness to acknowledge that is an evolution, and to lean into those opportunities, and network, put yourself out there, build those strong interpersonal relationships, meet new people, because we're only one connection away. You never know when one person can absolutely transform your life experience. So thank you for spending your time with us on the
Thank
Perpetual
you.
Growth Podcast. I sincerely appreciate it. So a shout out to you, Olivia. You brought so much value to today's conversation.
Thank you.
Olivia, where can our listeners connect with you to learn more about what you're working on?
Well, excellent. First of all, thank you so much for having me on your show. I really enjoy talking to you as well. For your listeners who want to know more about me or connect, I'm most active on LinkedIn. So you can find me under my name, Olivia Lee. And I hope to, meet some of your viewers through LinkedIn.
Excellent. And, we were talking before the episode too. I know you've got some special things that you're working on, and at some point, there'll be even more that you have to share with the world. And depending on the timing of production and all that good stuff, ideally we'll get those links in. Regardless, at some point we'll get it updated so those links are in there. Do you want to touch on that really quick? What you are working on in the background that we haven't announced yet?
Oh, sure. So I have a digital t-shirt collection coming out in April. The name of the collection is called Expose Layers. You can think of it like my commitment to this Web3 space. So as all of us are starting to learn more about some of the new technology, whereby it is the AI, it could be some of the new kind of digital fashion, AR, NFC, all of that kind of thing. I hope that I can use this shirt as like the connecting point, the tangible item that can connect all of these different evolving technologies, and see this t-shirt evolve over time. So there's a t-shirt collection called Expose Layers. It should be launched April.
That is fantastic. I'm super excited for you. Make sure you keep all of us tuned. Let me know so I can put that out to our audience. So, first and foremost, if you want to get in touch with Olivia right now, find her on LinkedIn, Olivia Lee, and stay tuned for the t-shirt collection that's coming out so we can support these future ventures. Now, if this episode sparks something for you, don't keep it to yourself. Share it, subscribe, and leave a review to help us reach even more people on their growth journey. And remember, growth doesn't happen by chance, it happens by choice. So thanks, Olivia. It was an absolute pleasure, and we will see you all next time.